What's up, all, and welcome to the Below the Rim podcast. We are regular dudes sharing perspective from below the rim. My name's Jacob, joined with four other regular normal dudes, and Michael, Ian, Brian, and Alex, and excited to chat some NBA basketball with you all here. So jumping in, a little agenda for the day, a little rundown. We're gonna talk about depth in the NBA, why it's important, why it matters, why it might not matter. Talk about some guys we can't quit and make some big picture prediction, bold claims, stakes, things that we absolutely can never walk back as we progress through the rest of the NBA season. So with that, throw it over to Brian, who's going to kind of preamble and ramble a bit about why depth might or may not matter in the NBA.
I feel like the first thing I gotta say is, Ian, your mouth is dangerously close to that mic.
There's nothing dangerous about it.
Sound quality is incredible.
I was going to say you sound better than all of us.
No, that's great. That's very.
If I sound better, I sound smarter.
Yeah. So I feel like depth in general. I feel my perspective is during the regular season, lots of teams that run like a deep, 8, 9, 10 person, lineup. They run out there every week, and in the playoffs, it just doesn't matter as much. Teams shorten it up. They'll go 6, 7, 8 guys, and so I think it's important for like seeding, regular season success, to have that depth. But I think at the end of the day, like who's going to win the championship, who's going to make it to like the conference finals, it's not gonna make or break. I think the one exception to that is like when you're playing matchups, like you'll see, like I'm trying to remember like the Dallas Mavericks last year, they like really kind of ebbed and flowed who they played more minutes in the playoffs depending on matchups.
You had the PJ Washington games where he played a lot of center, ramped up some Kleba. We had more Lively versus Gafford, a lot of the different front course mix and match, right? And in terms of who they saw in different series.
Yeah, exactly. So that's like something that can definitely make a difference. Like, someone who's hot or something. But I think in general, the top heavy teams, I think we know, are the teams that will, be there at the end of the day. So that's kind of that's the high level take.
So couple of trends, and maybe they're early, maybe they're not relevant, but two best teams this year in terms of the defensive rating by a landslide are the Warriors and the Thunder. Warriors are running a 12-man rotation, including guys like Buddy Hield, Kayvon Looney, Lindy Waters, Kyle Anderson, playing meaningful minutes, and they've started 6-1, best net defensive rating for them in the last 5 years. Thunder, significantly by far the best team in the NBA so far, best defensive rating, kind of jumping off the page, playing 11 guys regularly, including Ousmane Dieng, who people would have potentially categorized as a bust. Is that depth? Is it drafting? Is it good coaching? Why are those two teams that are kind of playing dramatically more guys on a regular night-to-night basis compared to the Sixers or the Nuggets, who have struggled to start the year and are kind of shallow in that? Ian, where are we seeing that disparity play out? Is it roster building? Is it coaching? Is it the other teams just don't have the right pieces? What are you seeing?
Yeah, I think it's actually the opposite of what Brian said.
No, thanks.
I think that he's right in the sense that the top heavy teams will be there at the end. But I think that it's not quite that simple, and I think that a really good example of that would be the Nuggets, because the Nuggets, unlike some of those other teams that you just mentioned, Jacob, the Bucks and the Sixers, the Nuggets are playing at full health here for the most part. I mean, Aaron Gordon got injured, but he's going to be back in a couple of weeks. But the team's been healthy and at full strength for the first part of the season, unlike the Sixers, who have had obvious issues. I talk about them in a second, but the Bucks concern me a lot more than the Nuggets, in the sense that or in a similar way than the Nuggets, but less than the Sixers. So both the Nuggets and the Bucks, both super top heavy. We have Jokic and Giannis, who for me are 1-2 in the NBA, and the Bucks have Lillard, and the Nuggets kind of have Jamal Murray as like a 2A, but that's sort of debatable, I think, these days. What I think the depth really comes down to is not as simple as just looking at like on offs for your star players. Like I think that those star players are going to be able to carry you, but the Nuggets losing KCP, for example, makes a huge difference. Like he's not a super high usage player, but the depth really matters at defense. And so like Christian Brown, Peyton Watson, those are the guys getting those minutes, and they're not just producing at the same defensive level. Their like offensive usage is higher than KCP's was, but from a defensive standpoint, they just can't make up that production. And like last year in their most used lineups, they had DeAndre Jordan, Reggie Jackson, Justin Holiday all over their most used lineups throughout the season. And so like those guys are gone or just like not relevant anymore. And so they're really struggling. Like I'm really worried about the Nuggets. I think, losing Jokic, like being off the court, I think Westbrook makes up a lot of that usage. But really what stands out to me is Aaron Gordon. Like I think when Aaron Gordon's off the court, the team really falls apart. Like they just don't have any depth at the wing to make up for his offensive production and what he can do on defense. So the Nuggets worry me a lot. The Bucks kind of similar. I mean, they need Middleton back. It's like kind of hard to judge because they're not at full strength. But I think the Nuggets are kind of a prototypical example right now of why that depth really matters. We'll see as the season progresses. Like Jokic is going to get a lot of miles on him.
Yeah, and I think there's the notion of Brian kind of to connect the points, right? You kind of got to shorten the rotation. You're going to play your best guys in the playoffs, right? It's going to come down to top end talent, but you also have to get there and have to get there semi healthy, right? And Michael, I think we talked about the fact that the matter is the last 3 to 4 years, there's been significant contenders that have been prevented from making the playoffs because we've lost a major threat. So how do you feel some of these teams are going to handle or manage depth throughout the year? And is it depth just by having bodies? Is it depth in people having a specific role? What are your take in terms of what depth actually means to get to that point?
I was going to say, people forget that the playoffs are like 2 months. I mean, it's a long time. It's a season within a season. And so last year, if you look at the Celtics, they were very top heavy, but they played 8 guys consistently. And I think not only do you need to, you're talking about the different roles. Like, for example, I know the Cavs are staggering Jared Allen and Evan Mobley because together they don't do that well, but separately they're really good in their roles. So it's also, you got to be better than the other team's benches. It continues the momentum depth when the starters come out, and you obviously can keep guys going. Classic example is Manu Ginobili. The guy could have started any team in the league, and he was the best 6-man. He was on the Spurs, and they won 3. They were a dynasty. So I think and guys like Jamal Crawford and Sean Livingston. I know these are not modern guys we're playing right now, but these are my favorite examples. Just guys that come off.
Michael Melvin lookalike.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Sean?
Who?
Yeah, for the folks watching at home, Michael Melvin, Manu Ginobili.
Oh yeah, I dressed up like
Right.
him
Before.
Those aren't the same
dressed up like
person
him for
for those watching at home. We don't have Manu
Actually,
Ginobili on the podcast.
You couldn't tell by watching him play though.
And I actually have hair back here. You can't tell, but the hair goes around the whole head. I
Yeah,
also
you're like
think,
in early 2000s, Manu.
yeah, perfect. A little just as athletic as him too. I would say though, in terms of depth, I also love. I think it builds team chemistry if you can trust your bench to come in and like really help, and you like Steph can take a rest and feel like good about it. I think that's huge for the whole season, and then especially in the playoffs. To me, you have to have at least 3 guys on your bench that are not only like fill-in guys. Ian, to your point, they have to be beneficial to your team.
But I think it's kind of like a chicken or the egg situation. Like, are teams really good because of the depth they have, or do they build that chemistry because they're already really good and like can just allow the bench guys to go off? Like, think about the Celtics right now with guys like Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser.
Peyton
Like,
Pritchard's great. Don't talk about him.
well, no. I'm not saying he wouldn't be
He's
starting
not
on
a
another
system
team,
guy.
but he's a bench guy for the Celtics, or probably the best team in the league. I mean, the best team in the East for sure. So, it's like, are they really good because of Peyton Pritchard, or is Peyton Pritchard like feeling really good and building that chemistry because they're already really good? It's
I
hard
think
to say, but I
it's a
think
bit
it's
of
a positive outcome.
it's a bit of a referendum on the superstars as well in terms of, and I've always been a big proponent of, guys that excel in their role are the right kind of depth, where, a Derek White who's my favorite NBA basketball player, comes in and knows exactly what he's supposed to do on the court for the Celtics to make his team better and win. But that's also because Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum carve out the space for him to have that role. And I think that's where guys like Embiid and, to an extent, Giannis get a little bit of, I think, too much wiggle room in terms of lack of criticism, that they don't carve out the space for their teammates to succeed in the same way. I think the Dame Giannis pick and roll is a perfect example, that we would expect Giannis to be a much better roll man, short roll man, making decisions at the elbow, catching and seeing outlets, making other people better shooters on his team at this point in the relationship. And we simply haven't seen that be kind of this dominant, unleashing offensive force so far, right? Similarly, Joel Embiid has had stars around him, and he plays one way. And yes, there's questionable stars. I'm not going to be the one to start making pro Ben Simmons arguments on our first podcast, but I still sometimes think he gets the short end of the stick. But
Brian will do
outside of that, right? James Harden, yes, he has his shortcomings as well, but perennial all-star player that is almost single-handedly keeping the Clippers afloat to start the season. I'm very interested to see how the Paul George Tyrese Maxey relationship plays out, but I think there really is a argument for the space that your star players create as well.
And Jacob, to that point, I think it's interesting. Sorry, Brian, I didn't mean to cut you off there. I was going to say, I find it interesting what NBA players want to play with other NBA stars. I think that's the most telling. Like, we as fans, we're not on the court, we're not in the locker room, we don't see the behind the scenes, some of the things that really make the chemistry happen. And I find, like, I know a lot of guys want to always play, like Michael Conley. Oh, is that Michael Conley?
Yeah, Mike Conley.
Yeah. Everyone wants to play with him, and he's not even like, he got his first All-Star game 14 years into the season, and even the freaking refs were like super pumped about it. I mean, he's just an all-time nice guy, but I always find it interesting who they really want to play with. I trust the players the most in that, in that regard.
Yeah, we can't skip that point without mentioning our guy Drew Holiday.
Oh,
Everyone wants to play.
I was thinking about Drew Holiday too.
I want to play with Drew Holiday.
I've
My
been thinking
God.
about Drew Holiday since last night.
I'd babysit for him so him and his wife could have a deserved nice out, like a date.
No
or something.
question.
I just feel like he deserves good things.
He's a sweet man, a very sweet man.
Yes.
Like pregame when like everyone's like saying hi to each other. Like I noticed that like people like really say hi to him. Like sometimes it's a casual pat on the butt, but it's like actual like, hey, like how you doing, my man? For Drew
Yes.
Holiday. Yeah.
Also, other than Drake, I think that everyone likes DeMar DeRozan. I've kind of heard that he's the consummate professional.
Hey, he's off to a hot start this year.
He's my guy.
No lack of production out of him.
He's keeping the mid-range alive.
Speaking of DeMar, I think there's two teams that sort of fall in a similar category. The Kings being one of them, and I would actually group the Rockets with them as well in terms of teams with a lot of dudes. And probably the Rockets are the case study. We're going to figure it out what it looks like this year. But I think the Kings fall in a similar camp of, what's the pecking order? Who are we as a team? What's our crunch time lineup? For teams that have depth that ends up being too many guys, I think that's kind of a similar recipe for disaster, right? So, maybe if we start with the Kings, is DeMar the closer? Is it Fox? How do we make sure Keegan Murray's development continues? If you were kind of, giving advice, obviously we're all qualified to, give advice to Mike Brown, what would you prescribe for the Kings in terms of really, really helping them at least stay competitive in, a highly, highly impressive Western Conference?
I think
It's
it's
a miss league. You got to hit your shots.
Who's
That's
your
fair.
guy?
Throw
You should
that in
cut
a
that.
t-shirt.
Yeah.
Who's
I
your guy on the Kings?
Me?
to close. You're
Ryan,
saying?
you go. Yeah, you talk.
I honestly like I can touch on the Kings. I think that I gotta clarify one thing about my like depth, the whole depth discussion. I just want to clarify it's all a matter of degree. Like I think top heavy is more important, but like you need at least 6 or 7, not your like 8, 9, or 10. So that's like the last thing I'll say on that. I think the Rockets are a super interesting team, and I feel like teams struggle with this from time to time, but they have like so many talented young guys that they can't all get on the floor. They're in this like weird conundrum where you have some veterans that you've paid enough where they need to play, like your Dylan Brooks and your Fred VanVleet, but like their time still isn't now. Like they need to be developing their young guys, but there aren't enough seats at the table for like a Thompson and a Shepard, and you're still developing Jalen Green and Şengün, and it's like there aren't enough basketballs to go around. So it'll be. I think Shepard's an interesting one because I think like coming out of the draft, he's like my favorite prospect, but he's just not getting any run right now. So it's like if I were them, I'd give him the run and just see what happens because you're not making any like real noise this year, but maybe I'm wrong. Obviously, they disagree with me, but that's what I would do. You can't be stuck in the middle, and they feel like they're one of those teams in the middle right now.
Not to
One
mention.
thing
Sorry, go ahead, Ian.
I was gonna say one thing I've noticed with the Rockets specifically is that I agree with Brian. Like they have too many young guys that like could be really good or already are kind of good. I haven't noticed this really with other teams that have this issue, but they're playing a lot of these guys and giving them like high usage in really short bursts of time. Like Reed Shepard will play like 14 minutes, but he's getting the ball a ton, or like Cam Whitmore is on the court for 12 minutes, but he's used a lot in those 12 minutes. I think it's kind of interesting. Like that sort of usage isn't generalizable to an entire game. Like if Reed Shepard was to get like 32 minutes in a game, there's no chance he's touching the ball on 25% of his possessions unless he's the primary ball handler. But it's just kind of an interesting way to approach this, and I'd be interested to see if other teams do that in similar situations. I'm not sure. I've just noticed it's only like 6 games into the season, but it's kind of interesting.
My issue is if I'm one of the guys coming off the bench, the minute I step in the game, it's what the hell am I supposed to do? Right? Like, what's my role? What's my responsibility out here? They have 4 dudes that do the exact same thing. Like, Amen Thompson, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, and Dylan Brooks are like responsible for doing the exact same thing on a basketball court. Mind you, they also have Jalen Green, who thinks he's the best player on the team, and Alperen Sengun, who want to play dramatic different ways. One wants to play methodical offense, run sets. The other one wants to dunk in your face, right? So, like, to me, that's the biggest issue is they are so talented. I don't know how you toggle on and off between, all right, when AP's on the floor, we're going to sprint and run and gun. Then he's going to come on and we're going to slow it down and I'm going to play differently and I'm going to go camp in the corner. I don't know. As a basketball player, to me, like, you want to be great at the things that you do. And I think that's where their, quote unquote depth, right, can become a little bit of a challenge. But they don't really have an identity as a basketball team.
I agree, and I feel like I just gotta sneak it in here because I've always felt this way. I feel like Jalen Green is all fluff and like nothing real. Like it's just inflate, like high usage, a lot of shots, low efficient. Like I don't see him ever being like the one on a good team. Like
Does he remind you of like Trae Young too much? They're different players, but like you said the same stuff about Trae Young before.
No, and I still feel that way about Trae Young. Like Trae Young's a great player. He's like that classic case of like great offense, no defense. Obviously, size being somewhat of an issue there. I mean, love our short guys, but I think you have that same dynamic there a little bit. Trae Young just being more established, and he's just better on the offensive end. But yeah, similar.
I will say the Rockets are the team that I know the least of all the teams in the NBA right now for whatever reason. I haven't been able to watch them. I haven't been able to study them yet. So I want to talk a little bit about the Kings. First of all, watching the starting 5, I think Domantas Sabonis might be the nicest guy in the NBA. I love that.
You're
Family
throwing him
man.
in there, okay?
Family man, just great guy all around. Two, if you're talking about at the end of the games, what's the stat that the clutch points in the last, what is it, 5 minutes? Is it just the fourth quarter?
Yeah, five
Whatever
minutes
the
of the fourth quarter. Yeah.
five, yeah. You got to Aaron Fox and DeMar, and so they were like in the top five each on their respective teams, and now they're in the same team, and then you got Sabonis. To me, it's not necessarily who I'm going for in the last game; it's the matchup that game, it's the hot hand that game. It's a case by case basis because you can't go in. This is who's going to get the ball. It's like in this specific game, in this moment, this is who should get the ball, or even do like you call for one play and then you let the guys, do an audible and get to the other guy. But I will say, DeMar, watching him on the Bulls the past couple of years, the man is clutch. He's just money. So I have no problem with either of those three guys at the end of the game.
I will say, as far as like getting to your spot, and this is purely just from like a watching basketball. I don't know what like the advanced stats behind this are, but those two guys are definitely in the top tier of just like, I have the ball, I'm staring at you, you know where I'm going, I know where I'm going, and I'm still getting this shot up. I mean, like Kevin Durant's another one, but both, yeah, I wouldn't have an issue with either of those guys taking it, that's for sure.
They do have a lot of, like, I want to take the last shot guys. Between the two of them, Malik Monk. I think Keegan Murray wants to get his up as well, and I don't think
Keegan Murray ain't getting his up.
I don't think he's scared to get it up either. I think Sabonis is going to want to be involved in those plays. Listen, I think it's a good problem to have. But between primarily those three, all three of those dudes think, clock winding down, I want to be the guy to get the ball to the rim.
Yeah, but to your point, you want those guys in your team. You want those dogs getting after it. And they're one of my most interesting teams. I think I don't know if they're slept on. I just find them to be very interesting, fun to watch, and I just love the personnel. And even guys like Kevin Huerter, who else do they got? Some of these other guys on the bench that are actually pretty good that they're not being talked about. So I'm intrigued. I think the Kings are gonna they're gonna exceed expectations this year.
So before we maybe move on to the next topic, let's quickly go around the horn between kind of some of the depth-laden teams that I would say are overachieving to start the year. Let's call it the Warriors, the Cavs, Memphis, and the Magic. Which one of them do you think are going to come back down to earth? And then between the underachieving teams, the Nuggets, the Bucks, the 76ers, which are you most concerned about? Which do you think are actually in real trouble? Let's go around the horn. Alex, if you want to go first.
I'm most concerned about the Bucks because of, I think either you or Ian already said. But I know I'm not directly answering your question, but I think one point about depth, I think depth in specific skill sets is extremely important. And if we talk about the overachieving teams, OKC, Boston, Cleveland, and the Warriors, I think having 3-point shooting and perimeter defensive depth is extremely important, where depth in creating your own shot, interior scoring, and rim protection, it's in those roles, it's good to know who your go-to guys are. So, for example, like OKC and Boston are having a ton of success and had a ton of success last year because they have like an endless supply of like 6'6" to 6'8" lockdown wing defenders. So other teams aren't able to attack a weak link on defense. They've, like, if you take OKC for example, they have Chet down low as the anchor, and then they always have 4 guys on the floor who are lockdown perimeter defenders. And I feel like in that specific area, perimeter defense you can't get enough of, and it boosts up what your rim protector could do. Because I mean, we've all played basketball before, and I think it's one of the most underrated skill sets is just straight up being able to keep the dude in front of you who has the ball. Because when they get by you, you're opening up 3-point shooting. The rim protector has to shift over and protect the rim. It opens up all kinds of angles and passing lanes. So what am I saying? That's the most important. I think 1 through 4 having perimeter defensive depth to me is the most important area versus like isolation scoring and rim protection not as important.
Yeah, and the Bucks are hot garbage at perimeter defense.
Right, like no matter how good Giannis and Brook are at rim protection, like literally nobody on the Bucks can guard somebody one on one.
That's what happens when you trade away Drew Holiday. It's a crime.
Preach.
It's all full circle.
It really is. That guy's a winner. Just a winner.
I feel like I'm front running my bold prediction here, but I think the team in trouble is the Warriors. I don't know if I should get into it now or later.
We can hold it to the build prediction, but
Yeah,
you can
let's
still
hold
paint
that.
the
But
picture.
I think, I wanted to piggyback on OKC because I feel like that team's just nasty. What Alex was saying, but it's like they don't even have Hartenstein right now, and he's like a very good rim protector, rebounder, and they're not even at 100%, and that defense is scary good. So
I would say they've been because Hartenstein's out. They've been running like Chet's primarily playing the 5, but since they don't really have a backup center, he'll match up with the other team's center. When the other team's center sits, Chet goes out, and they're running like a 5-man small lineup where Caruso or I think Jalen Williams and Caruso have been guarding 5s, and they're able to switch everything, and they're just like hawking all over the place. It's the basketball we like to play. Everyone's communicating, flying all over the place.
seeing Caruso guarding a 5 would be interesting. I guess with like today's like everyone out offense, he could do that, but
I think we could.
I guess he can do whatever he wants.
We should do a deep dive on that in a future episode because I think it really started with OG just being like able to truly guard a 5 and what that unlocked for both the Raptors and Knicks. And I actually do think more and more teams are going to that model of like very stout wing defenders, just keeping these longer bodied centers out of the paint. I think it is really interesting.
But there are certain centers that you cannot stop, like Joel Embiid, or like Alex Caruso could not. There are very specific matchups where you just cannot do that with.
Yeah, that would be a mismatch.
That would be
Brian,
a mismatch.
Brian, just to close you out, who are you most concerned about in terms of some of the teams that are struggling so far?
Oh, most concerned about. I feel like I said this last time we talked, but I feel like I'm just concerned about the 76ers. Like, I don't know what the hell Embiid's doing. Like, talk about depth. Like, do they have any depth? Like, their stars aren't playing. Their depth's not playing well. Like, Maxi's throwing up 30 shots a game and shooting awful because he's got nothing around him. Like, I think there's a chance they get it together. And, like, their ceiling is so high, but, like, they're showing, like, that floor is dangerously low.
That was who I was going to say, Brian. I'm like looking at their roster, and it's just a bunch of kind of unreliable guys. I don't like the vibes that's going on in Philly right now. There's just a lot of negativity overall. I mean, how long is a process until it's failed? I mean, right?
It worked, and now it's not working.
Yeah. That's who I'm most worried about for sure. I think they're going to be in trouble.
Who's
Can I
coming?
jump in real quick before I forget? I had an idea pop in my head while Michael was talking about Manu Ginobili that I don't want to forget. So
Love
I'm
that.
thinking like for a future Halloween, if you were to dress up as Manu Ginobili and Billy dresses up as the bat that he slapped out of the sky, I think that'd be a really
Wow.
good costume.
That's such a specific, like,
Oh my god.
recall in your brain. Wow.
Most people, like, when you're trick-or-treating, I would say like 95% of the doors you go to will have no idea what's going on. But if you connect with like a couple people on that, it's a big moment.
Very cool.
Honestly,
And
I
then
feel like you should just go door to door until one person recognizes, because I'm going to put the threshold at 99% of people having no idea what you're talking about. But you got that 1%,
Yeah.
they're going to give you the whole bowl of candy.
I was just saying, and a new friend I've just created. So
Forever.
and I'm all
Forever.
about new friends. I'm always about new friends.
That would
Bring
be a
him on the
guaranteed new
podcast.
friend. Yeah, it would
Yes.
be one person, but it would be a guaranteed new friend.
Yes. And
Yeah, and anything else like that?
Halloween costumes versus related to specific NBA moments in time. I'll think about it. That should be a
Oh,
future.
that's a fun. That's
We
a
No,
fun idea.
you know what? Another one could be the Allen Iverson like step over Tyronn Lue.
yeah,
Like you could
we could
somehow
also
like that.
collectively do the palace at the or the malice at the palace, excuse me, but that
Oh
that
yeah,
might
yeah,
that might
yeah.
get a little aggressive.
You could do that with a group. That would be fun.
Oh my gosh, the ideas.
Come
Great.
to
I'm not a Halloween guy, but now I'm into Halloween. Too bad that
come for basketball talk, leave with Halloween costume ideas. You know, we're just giving
100%.
giving our audience what they need.
Fun stuff.
Ian,
Brian, you just one more Halloween costume. I feel like this is pretty important.
all right, I am gonna cut this, but that's fine.
Wait, we gotta go one more.
It depends how good this is. It depends how good it is.
All right,
Let's do it.
yeah. We're not gonna cut this.
Well, Ian and I, maybe like a year ago or maybe 2 years ago, got Brian a baby Bradley Beal jersey for the Wizards for his son Miles. You could dress Miles up in the Bradley Beal jersey, and then you dress up as an empty box score like 35.0000.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
An empty
Oh my
box
god,
score.
the blatant disrespect.
That's
You say that
unbelievable.
with a straight face.
Just
That is-
Bradley Beal just taking shots out here.
But we're coming back to the
Wow.
Wizards later, right? We got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh,
All right.
I've got a whole host of Wizards
We'll
content.
revisit this.
All right,
later.
Ian, take us home. Who are we most concerned about? I think we know from your perspective, and who do we think is coming back down to earth?
So I'll say I disagree on the Sixers stuff. Like I don't think that the Sixers are like doomed necessarily. They kind of remind me of like the Durant, Harden, Kyrie Nets. It's kind of like this. Like the regular season is going to be such a joke. They're never going to play together, and then in the playoffs, like Paul George's foot will be on the line, and then it ruins all their careers. No, but like I think that they have a lot of hope left. So I'm not out on them. The Bucks worry me the most. I mean, it's not even close. Like I think the Nuggets have enough power, like at the top and middle of the roster, and really struggle at the bottom of the roster. The Bucks, after Giannis and Lillard, are just a total disaster. Chris Middleton, even when he plays, is not who he was 3-4 years ago. And their role players like just aren't cutting it. Like Gary Trent Jr. is not that good, frankly. Like Pat Connaughton, like they're playing like Andre Jackson Jr. a lot. DeLon Wright is getting a ton of minutes. Like this team's a disaster.
Is Doc Rivers the coach of the Bucks?
Yeah,
I feel like I've completely lost faith in him. I don't think it's his fault, but like I just for some reason he just ever since that Celtics team, I just don't know if he knows how to coach a team. But
I agree. I'm gonna break the rules already, Jacob. Instead of the team that I think is gonna come back down to earth, I'm gonna say the team that I think is like destined for the stars here, out of the teams that we talked about, and it's definitely Cleveland. Like I think we talk about depth a lot, and to Alex's point earlier, like they have substantial depth positionally. Like they're able to play between Allen and Mobley a really unique style of basketball. Like Mobley's on the court for like half of his minutes with Jared Allen, half without. And when he's not playing with Jared Allen, he slides into the 5 perfectly. And when Jared Allen is on the court, he slides into the 4 perfectly. Like he's able to stretch the floor. He's able to guard multiple positions. I really think that Mobley's kind of the key there for them staying where they're at right now. And I just see them really cruising through the regular season. Playoffs, like, I don't know. It's yet to be seen a little bit for them. But regular season, I really see them cruising.
I want them to do really well throughout the whole, and I think, Ian, to your point, they will do well throughout the whole season. But in the playoffs, and don't get me wrong, Donovan Mitchell, one of my favorite players, they're just not as top heavy as the Suns or anyone in the West, you know. And I want them to do really well. Or there's no way they can beat the Celtics in a 7-game series, as much as I do love Cleveland. So
Well,
I do agree with you there.
let's come back to that. Before we leave this topic, I'll say before the injuries to Jamal Murray and Aaron Gordon, the bench for the Nuggets was Russell Westbrook, Julian Strawther, Dario Saric, and Peyton Watson. And in the first 2 games, they combined for a total of 9 points on 3 for 15 shooting.
Is that good?
I'm concerned. I'm concerned.
I mean, like the Nuggets got bit by I guess I don't know their exact cap situation, but like whoever mentioned it earlier, like if they still had KCP and Bruce Brown, like if they still had that depth, they'd be golden. But
Yeah.
like you pay Michael Porter Jr. like basically a max level deal, and you're screwed because he's that guy who's not worth it. But the front
Feel like
office
you
feels
have to.
compelled to pay him that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's like the opposite approach after you win the title of we're seeing like with the Celtics. Like they won the title and now they're getting a little complacent, and this is what happens. The Bucks kind of tried to go the other direction. They made a huge swing for Lillard, ended up getting rid of the best point guard in the league, Drew Holiday, and now they are where they are. So I'm disappointed in Denver to that point.
All right. Shifting gears. Uh, gonna do a little segment about the players just when we thought we were out, they pulled us back in. Doesn't need to be a logical take, kind of in line with all of our illogical takes so far. Can be emotional, like Alex's description of Halloween costumes. But the player in the NBA for us that no matter what they do, the empirical proof, the stats, the year over year progression, they flash a moment, and that moment just pulls you back in. Michael, why don't you kick us off? Who's that player for you?
I'm gonna go with two. And our boy Peyton Pritchard was mentioned earlier, and it's not that I think he's bad. I just was like, he's okay. And then the fact that he keeps getting minutes on a Brad Stevens GM team with an unbelievable 8 guys, and he's what is he shooting? What is it? 36% from threes, scoring 16 points a game. I'm like, how are you doing that? I don't understand how he is doing that. And so I'm like, he's fine. And then he's always comes back and he's better than I thought. And I give him credit. I actually thought like he was similar to like a TJ McConnell, but he's who I like a lot. But I think he adds a little more value. And so I like him. And then Julius Randle, he always confused me. I'm like, is he really, really good or is he super overrated? And then I watched him play against, who was it? The Nuggets. And he did really well. He was getting to the paint. He was doing like the 90s classic bruiser, which I love. I love 90s basketball. And he's shooting 46 from three, which I know is like not going to happen. And it's just not realistic. But sometimes I see that Ant defers to him and he is super efficient and actually leads the team in a different way. I obviously think Ant for sure is the alpha, my favorite player in the league. But then Julius Randle continues to be like, you are really good and you keep the 90s mantra alive for me. So those are my two guys.
Bold takes. Thank you for starting us out. I Julius Randle is a player I'm not sure that we'll figure out until after he retires, and then there'll be all those clips on kind of social media that like Julius Randle was a problem, and we'll have to go back and be like, maybe not, right? Let's slow our roll on there. Who do you got, Ian? Who keeps pulling you back in?
So I was a Wizards season ticket holder, proud. And so I watched a lot of this guy play in person last year. Jordan Poole, he's not even like a no yes guy where like you don't want him to take the shot and he takes it and he makes it. He's just a straight up like no guy. There's no yes that like ever comes to be. He like does these crazy dribble moves, some of the coolest stuff I've seen on a basketball court, and then just like lobs it over like 6 feet over the basket. So really frustrating player, but for me this year he's really turned it around. So I think that there's a couple of trends that have really impacted this. For one, he's like the primary ball handler now on this team, which we haven't seen from him. Last year he was playing the point guard like 35-40% of the time, and now he's really handling the ball, and I think it just gives him a level of confidence. He's a little bit of a ball hog. Like I think leaning into that and allowing him to play that way has just got him playing at a level we have not seen even like in his Golden State years. Like he's playing really, really well. Speaking of an empty box score Halloween costume, like maybe by the time I have kids, he'll have a Wizards Jordan Poole jersey, and Brian and I can match as empty box scores with the Wizards.
We
But
can be a backcourt.
yeah, exactly. We could be a Wizards all-time empty box score basketball backcourt. Um, his efficiency is not sustainable. Like he's shooting like 50% from three, which is crazy. But I really like him, and also his best ability is availability. Like he has missed a total of 4 games the last 2 seasons. He's only been listed questionable in his career 17 times, and he's played in 12 of those. Like he's a valuable player, and his contract seemed ridiculous last year and like at the time, but he's only making like 30-ish million a year. That's puts him in the top 75 in the league, but that's not really that bad. Like I think that he's going to be a really valuable contract for a competitive team at some point in the next 2 years. Like if you're the Nuggets, you wouldn't love to have Jordan Poole, or like if
Who are you swapping out though for him?
I don't know, Christian Brown.
Got to make those salaries work.
Russell.
Again, obviously, I'm not saying that that's what the trade is, but like, I don't know. I'm not a mathematician here with the salaries. We don't do that here. But
We could though. We could.
that might be a future nerd
I would
segment.
say I don't know if we could.
We're going to need an outside consultant for that one.
Yeah, from a basketball perspective, like you wouldn't love to see Jordan Poole play in that offense. Like I think that could be really exciting. I think he's gonna make a good team really happy at some point in the next few years. Yeah, Jordan Poole. He's now a no yes guy from a no guy.
I mean, the Wizards are going to be my team that I can't quit at very, very soon. I love what they have working. I'll be the first to kind of, take out a timeshare on Wizard Island and just eat the cost for the first 3 years from now. But sign me up for that experience. I think Bilal Coulibaly is fun. I think their entire rookie class brings a little bit of juice. I think the early returns on Alex Sarr are decent. I still think Kyle Kuzma could develop into a winning basketball player. I don't know.
Right,
I think there are pieces.
Costume.
I think there are pieces there. I'm okay being early on this one. Give me the Wizards in 3 years. I'm on the pirate ship.
On the empty box score team. Kyle Kuzma starting 3.
I will give you them.
All right.
But Ian, to
listen.
your point though on Poole, I like Poole in very specific situations, like very specific fits. He's not a Drew Holiday where he fits in any single player everywhere. He's very, very specific. So I do hear you there, but he's definitely a no. Yes, kind of like remember Joakim Noah when he was like, "Stop dribbling the ball up the court, man."
Absolutely.
What are you doing? He was the no. Stop it.
I miss him
so much.
Speaking of the Bulls, Alex, you got anything you can't quit?
Wow, that was a good transition. I do. It's a little bit unorthodox, but so I had the pleasure of going to Bulls Jazz on Monday at the United Center. Shout out to CPS, the Chicago School System, for providing us with free tickets, teachers and students.
Very nice.
Generous of them.
Are you a
That's
teacher or are you a
fantastic.
student?
I'm a plus one, not a student, not a teacher, but was able to get in.
But
And
a
this-
student of the game. A student
This
of the game.
segment is sponsored by Chicago Public Schools. Thank you, CPS. We appreciate the sponsorship.
Yes, thank you. And we'll get to our next sponsor shortly. Jazz Bulls, not an exciting game. Monday night, United Center's like half full. Levine and Laurie are both sitting on the bench. So energy was low in the United Center, and on paper this might be kind of like a leave early game. But there's one thing I can't quit, and that's the Duncan race at the United Center. And for our international listeners, the Duncan race happens around the third quarter on the jumbo screen during a timeout. And it includes
You dog.
it includes animated characters participating in a 3-lap foot race. And so the way they have it now, this is new, is the fans could scan a QR code on the Jumbotron and select which animated character they think is going to win.
Oh, you got to choose your character.
Yeah, you could pick your character, and if your character wins, you could go scoop up a free item at Dunkin' Donuts.
Who'd you go with?
Now,
And who won?
historically, the race has included Dashing Donut, Cuppy Coffee, and Biggie Bagel. Now, to my surprise, they've updated the course, so now they're running around downtown around the Bean, and they've added a fourth character, Cuppy Coffee sibling Iced Cuppy is now a racer. So we have the hot coffee and we have the iced coffee.
Wow.
And I have a lot more on this, so you could cut whatever you need to cut. But my loved ones, they know best that I've always been a diehard Biggie Bagel fan. I've been a Biggie Bagel fan as long as I've been a Bulls fan, and as the only Jewish participant, I've always felt a strong connection with Biggie. Often when I'm eating Biggie's siblings on Hanukkah, I like to imagine. I'm reading from my notes now.
This required notes.
Let me see if I can get this line.
This is a thesis.
Deep press.
Often when I'm eating Biggie's siblings on Hanukkah, I like to imagine that Biggie Bagel is the one who made it out of the deli. The one who's doing something. Ah, damn it. This is where I can't get through it.
Out of the deli.
I have like 2 more paragraphs to read, but I don't know if I'll be able to.
So Alex can't quit Biggie Bagel, is what we're trying to say.
I didn't realize we could go off script like that. So this is news.
Did you win? Just give us a little fast forward action.
Yeah, okay, let me get to the actual race. So the gist of why I can't quit the Duncan race is because the fans go absolutely insane for it. So like for a Monday night Jazz Bulls game where the 2 best players are sitting out, it's like a pretty dead crowd. So the basketball hasn't been able to ignite any energy. But the race gets everyone up. So to start the race, Biggie gets off to a quick start. He's in the lead, and I know the 4 of you guys have seen the Duncan race, and for anyone who's watched it before, you know that getting off to a quick start, blowing your schmear too early is a death sentence. You're not going to win the race if you start in first. Everybody knows that.
Of course.
But they've changed up the race, the new course, the 4th character, and so it caught me by surprise. Biggie made a comeback. And so each lap, it's a 3-lap race, the crowd
After blowing
energy.
his schmear.
Each lap, the energy just gets like louder and louder. People are on their feet. And so going into the final lap, Biggie and the new guy, Iced Cuppy, are kind of like jockeying for first place with the donut character right behind. And so when we're coming around that final turn, the donut takes off and takes the lead. And everyone's on their feet. Section 325 is going absolutely nuts. Students, teachers, the +1s, we're all going crazy. And so we're down to that like final leg with Dashing Donut holding a very, very small lead. Ice Cubby picks it up, and Biggie closes the gap to take first place, and I'm going absolutely bonkers. And the reason I can't quit the Duncan race is because on a horrible Jazz Bulls Monday night game where they're providing 0 entertainment on the basketball court, the Duncan race still gets the job done. And just one last note, Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts, if you're out there, if you're listening, we are open to sponsorship deals.
I think my favorite part of that is the framing around the explanation being for international listeners.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like I'm trying to imagine the difference between someone sitting in Paris listening to this and someone in Eugene, Oregon, who's a domestic listener who also has no idea what the hell you're talking about.
I like that we have listeners in both of those places.
Shout out to our Paris listeners. We love you.
So good.
Oh, man.
All right, Brian.
I'm gonna open up my Alex. Thank you. I have to open up my mind because I didn't realize the things that we could achieve here.
I haven't laughed that hard in a long time.
Brian, tough act to follow, but other than Alex's soliloquy of stories, what can't we quit?
That was amazing. I feel you deserve an Emmy or something for that.
Thank you. I mean, while we're all kind of like settling back in, do you guys have go-to characters that you root for in the Duncan race?
No, but like I just want to say that part of the game is always super exciting, and I feel like on the pod we just play a quick clip of it so people can understand, and then they'll be hooked too. There'll never be a non-sold out Bulls game again.
I
I'll
actually
get
looked
I'll
on.
get right on that.
Perfect.
I looked on YouTube this morning, and somebody has a YouTube video of the Duncan race from the game I was at that I was talking about. So we could verify Biggie did win.
Maybe look at that in the link in the description below.
Yeah, thank you.
That's something people say.
Thank you.
I just want to hear Alex whisper iced cuppy into my ear every night.
Oh man, that'd be nice.
All right, let's get back on track. Bri, who can't you quit?
Yeah, I'm just gonna keep this short and sweet. I feel like there's like a couple guys who I could go with. I'm gonna go Brandon Ingram just because I'm not sleeping on him, but I feel like everyone sleeps on him, and like all he does is shoot efficiently, knows how to get to his spots, plenty of size, can defend, can distribute, can rebound. Like he literally does everything. He's consistent. You can say he has like some injury history, but like for someone still in his prime, like he's not a one, but I think I think he's getting the chance to shine a little bit on that team with a couple injuries, but I think he could be the 2 or 3 on a really good team if given the opportunity. And I feel like going into this year, no one was talking about him, and people would probably nod their head like, "Oh, he's like a decent player." But I think he's much better than a decent player. I think he's a top 2 or 3 option on a good team, and I think he's off to a hot start. And I think it's real. It's not just like he's capable of doing that for a full season if given the opportunity.
I'd like to see him play. I'd like to see him play defense in a big moment. Other than that, I don't disagree with your analysis. Right? I think he has a very polished skill set. I think we know exactly who he is. He's a bucket getter. I think there are times that he has Russell Westbrook syndrome where he just doesn't play winning basketball, and those are the moments, right, where he's an all-star. He's a really good player. I think for him to kind of, and maybe that's who he is, right, but to be the number 2 on a kind of competitive winning team, I think that's the next leap, is playing basketball both on the offensive and defensive side in some of those bigger moments.
Jacob, I feel like we need to give you 10 minutes to let out all your Russell Westbrook feelings.
Well, that's the player I can quit.
Should that be an episode? We should do a Russell Westbrook episode.
I mean, I quit him in 2012, so we can we can put that on to the side for some revisit at a later date. But the player I can't quit is Jonathan Kuminga. To me, can't quit him, and he's also one of the most frustrating dudes in the NBA. Not the best starts of the year starting. He is 13 points, 4 rebounds, 22% from 3. Already moved to the bench. And then he'll have moments where he'll come in the game against the Rockets and single-handedly, without Steph or Wiggins, take over a fourth quarter, including scoring all points in OT, crashing the boards, dominating and getting a win for the team. And like the talent just flashes before your eyes. And I want to hit him over the head and be like, where the heck is this 48 minutes a night? It's just, for me, it's the consistency. It's like, dude, just go out there. The fact that guy who's arguably like top 3% athleticism in the NBA has 4 rebounds and like 1.9 offensive rebounds a game it's just unacceptable. Just get in there and fly around the court, and just the scoring will come, the role will come. This is an extrapolation of, Brian, your point earlier, but I personally think that this is sustainable for the Warriors if the guys find depth in their roles. So, Alex, to your exact point, like if Kuminga can be a guy that you throw out there that's 100% effort, rebounding, perimeter defense, 30% shooting from 3, and can get you 14 to 16 off the bench, I think it just takes their ceiling and their regular season prowess and allows them to grow and him to grow in that role. So he's the guy for me because I think at the end of the day, he's still the unlock. I think Steph is going to Steph. Draymond's going to do what they need to do. I think they got great pieces now around them, with Buddy Hield all of a sudden turning into the best three-point shooter in the NBA. Pods stepping up in year 2 and really being kind of that third playmaker distributor. Trace Jackson Davis being another kind of interior defender. they just really need like a young guy that can give them that juice on January nights and then also off the bench in the playoffs. So he's the guy I can't quit because I can't also quit the Warriors, and the two go hand in hand for me. I still think this iteration, maybe it's more of my bias and hope. I think they got one more run in them to
They just beat
the
the
promised
Celtics.
land.
You're on it.
Oh,
It's absolutely your bice.
Listen,
Which is
call
exactly
a spade.
It's exactly why I made my bold take, which we'll get to. But I will say, like, one thing, like, effort and consistency, like you're saying, is truly a skill.
Agreed.
And I think if he there's always a chance. I just think if he hasn't flashed it at this point, he's just not going to. Which doesn't mean he can't be a productive player in his role, but like the hopes of him being like a guy, I think are gone.
And not everyone can be a Colin Sexton out there. That guy's got a motor. A motor.
I do
He'll
love
go
Colin Sexton.
3-on-5 and have no problem, like he did at Alabama.
He's somebody I really hope gets traded to contender. As an aside, I think he would be an awesome in this point in his career, like first guy off the bench in a contender.
Yeah,
be a great role
for sure.
All right, so Brian, dovetail it for us. Quick whip around to close today with bold takes for the year. Anybody that gets them wrong will be hung up by their ankles. So no stress there. But yeah, go for it. Get us started.
I do think it's important with these bold takes, and maybe we like revisit every so often. We should actually write these down somewhere. We should actually document. So I don't know,
Alex, you're in
how we're
charge.
gonna do that. Yeah, like I want posted notes on Alex's wall.
Yeah,
that we can always reference different.
Definitely.
I
It should
think,
almost look like a murder board, right? But we should be
lots
tracking
of rubber
takes
bands and
exactly. Yeah, I got it.
Could I just quickly swing to our movie guy, Ian? Is it Memento that has all the sticky notes because he forgets things?
They're tattooed.
Yeah,
on
it's Memento.
Tattooed on him. But he's also got other trinkets and notes and whatnot as well.
Okay.
That's a Christopher Nolan special.
Christopher Nolan. Okay. Back to you, Jacob.
Back to you, Brian.
Thank you.
Back to me for a second. Now back to Brian.
Michael, get a touch.
Around the this is what we call ball movement, fellas. This is what we call ball movement.
It's popping.
Important
It's
winning
popping.
games.
The
Yeah,
mic's
it's
got
popping.
energy.
No, I mean, I think the Golden State Warriors are a double-digit seed come season's end. Given the hot start, my bold take, I think a couple things. I think they're exactly what we were talking about with depth. I think they're that team that has good depth, but when it comes down to it at the end of the game, of course they have Steph, but like in the half court when you need a shot, like I just don't think like they're a team that'll be successful in the playoffs. I also don't think this success will last in the regular season. I think there's a lot of guys. I think a combination of me not feeling confident in Steph Curry and Draymond Green's ability to stay on the court, and then also guys like Buddy Hield, who's shooting like 70% from three, who's like never shown the ability to do that. I think he's fairly one-dimensional. I don't see him continuing this. Like I think a couple weeks from now, even that's like old news, like this whole Buddy Hield phenomenon. I think, there's a lot of guys on the team who I'm just not super high on. Like I know you like Kuminga. I don't think he's anything special. I think if you're rolling out a lineup starting like Moody and Trace Jackson Davis, love me some IU action. I just don't think you're going to win a ton of games. I think part of the reason for the hot start is who they've played. Even today, I mean, they beat Boston today, but no Porzingis, obviously, no Jaylen Brown. I don't think that's a fair comp. I think if you look at who they've beaten, I'm just pulling up their schedule. They beat Portland, Utah, New Orleans twice, Houston, Washington, like a Boston team that is missing two of their best players. Like, I just don't think they're proven, and I don't think it's going to last.
I think that was the perfect time for my take, which is I think there's 3 new teams in the conference finals this year, and I think the Thunder, the Warriors, and the Cavs are those 3 teams. I'll dovetail, and I also I think the Cavs are going to be world champions. So to start,
Oh my god,
I think
ridiculous.
I'm leaning into the depth conversation that we had earlier this year, but I think it is a true change, a new age of basketball that you need to have the talent across the board is so impressive that the people that are filling the spots around your best players need to be great in their role. And that's kind of my thesis across the board. And I think the Cavs have players that are superstars that are great in their roles, and then people that are filling in those spots in different ways. I think Darius Garland had the year from hell last year. I think he's going to kind of jump right back into his trajectory. I think Evan Mobley continues to get better, is able to be a defensive kind of negator to a lot of what these big switchable wings want to do. He can switch out, but he can also be a deterrent at the rim, which is something that a lot of these teams lack across the board. And I think they have clutch time scoring from three different places. And I think those three things actually allow them to match up really well with Boston. And I think pound for pound, guard for guard, the Cavs are the only team that I would choose their backcourt over Boston's backcourt come a playoff series. And I think that is a really interesting dynamic that in a 7-game series for the team that's motivated, not coming off a long finals run, not coming off Olympic drama and dynamics with kind of that fresh new core, I see them achieving that, going on and winning the championship.
Wait, can we pause on the backcourt? Who are you saying? Drew and Jalen Brown? Who's the
No,
Celtics
Drew and
backcourt that
Derek.
you're
I
gonna?
would say Drew and Derek White are their guards. Jalen Brown and Tatum are
And,
their wings.
Okay,
and,
all right.
and then you're saying Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell are better than those two guys.
Yeah.
I
I just
think
want.
that's insane.
I was gonna say it's an eloquent. The way you said it was very eloquent, but very bold,
There's no way.
and I disagree in a respectful way.
Hey, we've now gone 6 years in a row without back-to-back champions, and I actually think 5 of those 6 we haven't had the team that has won the final make it back to the championship. I just think we've kind of entered a new age that repeating is really, really hard, and I think just the amount of basketball calories it takes to get through a regular season and get through the playoffs, and do that after coming off a year from a finals. I think you're naturally at a disadvantage, and I think hungrier team that has players up and coming that are going to continue to get better. I'll take it as my bold take and move on and be measured against it as we move forward.
Wait, can I hear it one more time? What was the actual take?
So Cavs are going to win the championship. 4 teams that are going to make the conference finals are Cavs, Boston, Thunder, Warriors.
The
We
top
got
four
our
Write
teams
that
in the
down.
league at the
Alex.
moment.
Write that down.
copious
writing it
note
down.
taker.
Yeah, I'm just gonna interject right now. Denver is beating OKC late in the third quarter. Russell Westbrook, 24 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists, and a steal. I'm just gonna toss it. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
toss
Wow.
And I'll
Jacob, you
say,
still can't quit him?
yeah, I can't quit him because if that's your only recipe to succeed, you're in for a long season, my friends. A long season. But
Yeah, I
let's
agree
keep
with
this
Jacob
train.
on that one.
Let's keep this train moving. Melvin, what is your scolding hot take?
That the Bulls and Comcast are going to come to a deal, and I can watch them next week.
Whoa.
Yeah, that might be the boldest
my
take
bold
of the
take.
night, actually.
Yeah, that is my take.
That's
Inside
white
information?
hot. White hot.
That is white hot. I want to watch my mediocre team be mediocre. Like, why are you taking that away from me? We don't have to get on that because I'm going to get really mad. I think my bold take is that the Mavericks are going to win 2 playoff series. And I absolutely love their big men, Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively. The second, I think Derek especially, is going to keep getting better. I think that Klay Thompson is going to get his with Doncic. I think they're going to figure out their magic together as well as with Kyrie. I really love PJ Washington, Maxi Kleber. Their squad, I really do enjoy their whole team, and I think that Doncic is. I know Ian, you said what was it, Giannis and Jokic were number 1 and 2. I think that Doncic is number 3. If if definitely in the top 5. I just love the way, and some people say he plays slow, and maybe he does, but with this team, when Klay Thompson, I feel like he's going to have a game where he takes 4 dribbles and scores 35 points at some point this year too. So that's my take. The Mavericks are going to win 2 playoff series. I don't necessarily know if they're going to win the championship, but I think they've somehow gotten a little better somehow.
I mean, not really that hot of a take considering they made it to the
You don't think
championship.
so?
They
No,
made it to the
I feel like it's gotta
championship
be
last
hotter.
year.
It's got to be hotter
Listen,
than that.
you think
it's
so?
a take. It's a take. I liked your first one better than your second one, but that's
fair.
that's
So
each
I'll be
your
very
own.
honest with you, Jacob. I wasn't prepared for that question. That's why I was like looking at all of this. That was not part of the pre. I want you to know. I was going to say, who's my guy? That's just a guy. That's what I was prepared for. I had that whole ready. And you just come in with the audible. I just put my daughter to bed 15 minutes before this.
I'm fairly
You help me out
confident
here.
it says segment C, bold take, plant your flag. Also, make sure to comment on here so we can be prepared.
Didn't we say which player is currently just a guy you're most excited about? And I was going to talk all about Io.
That was segment D, but it's okay.
Oh, you switched it up. Slack is hard to read.
First episode, we're working.
We're learning together.
We're learning together.
Mr. Katz, keep it moving.
So I might get yelled at here too because I'm going to change mine slightly from what I put in the show notes. So originally, I'll out myself here though. So like originally, I gave 2. I said 1 that Alex Sarr is going to be unanimous Rookie of the Year. I'm not saying that that's a horrible take. It's too bold though. I went and looked at unanimous Rookies of the Year recently. It's like Wemby, Cat, Dame Lillard, Blake Griffin. It's just not going to happen. So like that's just dumb. My second one was even dumber. So I said that there was going to be only 1 lottery pick in the all rookie first team. That hasn't happened in like ever. So that's not going to happen. So what I settled on, which I actually think might happen, which I'm actually kind of excited about, is for the first time since 1965, there's going to be 3 players from the same team on the all rookie first team. And in 1964-65, when that happened, there were only 9 teams in the NBA. So since 2000, it's happened 5 times where 2 guys from the same team have been on the all-rookie first team. Pau Gasol, Shane Battier, Ben Gordon, Luol Deng, Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, Dario Saric, Embiid, and then most recently, John Morant and Brandon Clark. So this year, I'm sticking with my Wizards. I think it's going to be Sarr, Keyshawn George, and Bub Carrington are all going to be on the all-rookie first team. I think that this actually could happen. That's 3 of the best rookies so far this season, and I think that they have like a take your shots, roll with your misses kind of mentality on the team, which is much different than how they played last year. They were playing like really scared last year. I think Kuzma is out for a while. I think he ends up getting traded this year. That opens up even more time for Keyshawn George, and I think that like Poole, Koulibaly, Carrington are like a really fun combo in the backcourt. Sarr's playing center. I think it's like a really exciting young core, and that's my prediction. Three Wizards on the all rookie first team.
So what you're saying is you want to share my timeshare. You want to buy a couple of weeks with.
I would.
Wizards
I can't afford it right now.
Okay, that's fair.
I can't afford it, but I could roll over some accounts into there. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. A little too much capital already deployed on the Wizards, but maybe in a couple months, right? When some of those assets appreciate, we can put down some permanent roots.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right.
I'm in.
I love it. Alex, take us home.
Former Wizard season ticket holder Ian Katz. He's a homer. His heart's still in
Always
his
have
team.
been.
Okay, my bold take. The Oklahoma City Thunder are going to tie the Warriors in their 73-9 regular season record.
Wow.
Wow.
My research shows that that's challenging to do, Alex.
For sure, they are on pace. They haven't lost a game yet, so if they keep not losing games, I think we're in good shape.
Let me run those numbers.
I was about to say, let me check that out. Ian, does it check out?
I've got it. I don't have my abacus on me, but yeah, that checks out.
Well, they're going to lose tonight because Russ is going off, but that's okay.
That's right. We could lose one here and there, but
Brian, I'll bet you that the Thunder win this game by 6 points, at least.
I'm not betting that. I'll bet you that Russell scores over 20 points.
73 wins.
Well, let's
no
let's
more,
go
no less.
just exactly 73.
Yeah, on the dot.
Hey, that's bold. I like it.
But they're going to finish the job. They're winning the championship this year.
Wow.
All right.
So, are you saying? Hold on, I got one follow-up question for Alex.
Please.
Are you
Thank you.
saying that the OKC Thunder, as currently constructed, will be forever memorialized as the best team of all time after this season?
It's a bolder take when you ask that question.
Yeah, when you say it like that.
Brian, this isn't first take.
I'm doing my best, okay? You know, don't call me out in the middle of the episode.
I mean, listen, I think the league's in a different place. More parity, and I think they stand out above the rest. But no, they're not better than that Warriors team.
The Warriors
They're
seem
not
to
even
get
better
it.
than the.
The Warriors seem to get the job done, though. So if your prediction is in fact that they go on to win the championship, then you are memorializing them as the greatest NBA team ever.
Sure, lock it in. Best team of all time. OKC.
There you go.
The thing is,
stand on
the
your
one-
business. Stand on
I
your
was about to say,
business.
that's a hot take we can live on.
Yeah.
All right. So quickly to wrap it up, we got the Mavs winning 2 series, 3 Wizards.
I'm so mad at this. I have my whole thing about Io, and I just
We have our really lukewarm take there.
All
that
right.
wasn't even fair.
Three
I think
Wizards.
The Comcast
3
take was
Wizards
hot,
on
though.
the
Right.
on
Yeah,
the
the
all
Comcast
team.
take was hot.
3 Wizards on the first team all rookie. The Thunder is the greatest team ever. Just period. No kudos.
That's the take. That's the
Those
take.
qualifications. The Warriors being a double-digit seed upon the year end, and 3 new teams, including the Warriors, Thunder, and Cavs making the conference finals, and the Cavs winning it all. We will obviously revisit these as we progress and check back in progress. So if you made it this far, kudos to you. Don't know what else you were doing with your life, but we appreciate you listening. And we will be back next week to continue our conversation and listen and follow the show notes this time and enjoy our dialogue and discourse
Shots
from
fired.
normal dudes about the NBA. We appreciate your guys' time. Have a good rest of your day.
We will talk more about bagels next time too. So.
And more bagels.
Bagels and ball.
Oh, thank God.
What do we do?
Good